everyone, and welcome to the Scarlet Launch. My name is Grace Ndunge, and it's a pleasure to have you here with us. Today, we're going to be talking about a subject that's ongoing. Well, it's been ongoing, and it will continue to be ongoing for a very long time, for as long as people are living together, married, in partnerships in one way or the other. We're speaking about domestic violence. In studio, I'm joined by our resident counselor, Dr. Beatrice Nzou. Dr. Beatrice, karibu sana.
Thank you so much, Grace. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Dr. Beatrice Nzou, a counseling psychologist. I'm glad to be here today to address this topic that is really trending in our society now.
All right. We're so glad that you're able to be here. And just to remind you that the conversation is going on and will go on Facebook, Scarlet Women Kenya. That's the Facebook page, that's the Instagram page, and that's the TikTok page. Go there and give us your comments, like us, follow us, and subscribe to our channel, Scarlet Kenya. Then you can be able to learn all about the topics that we talk about, because we have conversations that are really interesting and conversations that are aimed at making you a better person. Remember, the hashtag to use is Scarlet Launch, or another hashtag, Scarlet Women Kenya. Go to your social media platform and participate in this conversation. Dr. Beatrice, I'd like to dive straight into today's topic and begin by asking you, what is domestic violence?
Thank you, Grace. Domestic violence has got to be any act that interferes with a person's freedom, a person's free choice, and a person's free will to act and benefit from the relationship.
Right. So, when we talk about domestic violence, we're basically talking about violence within a certain environment, and that is mostly the home. Yeah. And of course, here, when you talk about domestic violence, are we talking about women being hit, or what does it entail? Who is involved in this?
Domestic violence is not only against women or children, it is also against the men. And that's why we talk about the family, the domestic, because it involves the people who are within that living environment or relationship. And it can happen to any of the two, either the male or the female, or the children, the relatives, and even the employees within that homestead.
All right. So domestic violence, you're saying, is basically violence that is happening in a residence, in a home. And, it presents itself in different forms. What are some of the forms of domestic violence?
Domestic violence can occur in the form of physical violence. It can also be emotional, it can be environmental, it can be social, it can also be financial. Any act that puts a pain to the other person.
Right, thank you very much, Dr. Beatrice. And of course, we shall in subsequent conversations dig deeper into each form of violence, but just for purposes of us being informed about domestic violence and the various forms that it manifests itself in, maybe Dr. Beatrice, you could explain briefly the various forms of domestic violence. When we say physical domestic violence, what are we talking about, for example?
Yeah, when we talk about physical, we are talking of being hurt, physically abused. You are slapped, you are kicked, you are whatever it means that is physically causing pain on you. It could be financial, where you are denied you are not provided with the finances that you require. It could be emotional, where you are denied the joy that you enjoy most in your life. It could also be social, whereby you are not allowed to socially integrate and socialize with your peers, with your neighbors, and it's like you are put in a cage of your own. In other words, you don't have freedom socially, just like you don't have freedom financially.
Right. Let's talk a bit about, explain a bit about financial domestic violence. What is that and how does it occur?
Usually this will take the form of one spouse or one partner not being allowed to even spend at some relationships. The breadwinner would not want even to allow the other person to be able to maybe handle cash. You have a spouse, he's earning, he's on a payroll, you don't even know how much he earns. And also for you to do anything, you have always to ask for the money. And when you are denied that money, then financially, because you are not able, then there is a violence that is being done to you because you cannot meet your financial needs the way you would want to.
All right, and domestic violence, of course, is very, very common, and we are seeing all these cases going on around. And, you know, at the end of the day, it's that, and that's what Dr. Beatrice is saying, that at the end of the day, someone gets hurt. You'll either get hurt physically, you get hurt emotionally, you get hurt socially, you get hurt financially. So, domestic violence is about getting hurt, feeling the pain. So, Dr. Beatrice, how do I know that I am being violated within the domestic institution?
One good sign, and the best of it all, is when you realize you don't have freedom to do what you want to do. And of course, when I talk about freedom, I'm talking freedom that is positive, freedom that is constructive to the relationship. Like, let's say about the financial freedom, where you realize if you are a lady, you want to join the other women for the chamas, but you don't have money to contribute in that chama, simply because you are not the breadwinner and you have to ask for that money and you are denied that money. So whenever you realize your freedom to exercise the role that you are required to do, you don't have the freedom, then to me that would be a good red flag that violence is on the move.
All right, and when you say freedom, that's a very broad perspective, and also very contentious.
Yeah.
Because freedom, how would we define freedom? Like, for example, if I live with my husband and I want to go out clubbing on a weekend, like say on a weekly basis, on Friday, I want to go and nipige sherehe, and my husband, of course, does not allow that. Is that my freedom being denied, or what sort of freedom exactly are we talking about here?
When I talk about freedom in the relationship setting, I'm talking about the freedom that enhances the relationship. The things that you want to do are within the boundaries of the relationship. I'm not talking about being wild out there. That's, to me, that's not being denied freedom. Because what are your values? What is it that you have in this relationship? If the values of the relationship are not interfered with, that, to me, that would be a denial of a freedom. But when it is something that has got to do with outside the boundaries of the relationship, to me that would not be a freedom. Maybe it would be something else that we can talk about another day.
All right, and of course, viewers, this is a very contentious topic, and of course, it's something that's happening to many, many of us. Some of us don't even realize we're being violated. It's happening to us every day, and we have no idea that it's happening. And of course, you're getting hurt. Maybe you can't see it now, but in the near future, you'll definitely be able to see it with time. And so it's important for you to be able to identify the red flags, like Dr. Beatrice is saying. The biggest red flag is the lack of freedom. The other side to this is, how do you tell when someone is being violated other than yourself? We're going to continue with this discussion and much more right after the break.
The drinking water pump from Simi makes drinking from those 5-gallon bottles a breeze. Once installed, just press on the blue hand pump to pour yourself a nice glass of water. This item comes with the water pump, 2 extension tubes, 1 pouring spout, and 1 brush for cleaning the tubes. To assemble, simply connect the 2 extension tubes, insert that long tube snugly into the bottom of the water pump. Then attach the water spout to the front. You can then insert into the bottle of your choice and tighten the locking nut for a nice secure fit. And you're all ready to drink your water.
We are so glad that you've stayed with us. This is Scarlet Launch and my name is Grace Ndunge. Today's topic is about domestic violence. We're asking the question, what is domestic violence? And how do you know that you're being violated? And in what form does domestic violence manifest itself? In studio, of course, is Dr. Beatrice Nzo discussing this very, very contentious issue that is hurting very many of us. The conversation is going on live on Facebook. We are also live on YouTube, Scarlet Kenya. That's the page, Scarlet Kenya. On Instagram, on Facebook, and on TikTok. The pages are Scarlet Women Kenya. Go there, follow us, like us, and subscribe to the YouTube channel so that you do not miss out on conversations that make your life more exciting. Now, before we took the break, Dr. Beatrice had just said that if you're in a relationship, you need to be on the lookout for the greatest sign, the greatest red flag of domestic violence is lack of freedom. And we said, if you see or you realize that you're not able to live quality life, within the confines, of course, the boundaries of a relationship, you're not enjoying your life, you need to know that something is wrong and you need to deal with it. And one of the things that, becomes very complicated is when you see someone else being violated, or at least you feel they're being violated, and for some reason they seem not to see it. How can you tell that somebody near you or close to you is being violated?
It's very easy to know. Like if somebody has been very outgoing and then all of a sudden the person becomes an introvert, that's a red flag. Something is not happening, and there is need to really find out from that person. And another good simple example is you are in a women group together with this lady friend of yours. She used to contribute monthly contributions very easily without even any hitch. And then all of a sudden she starts defaulting the payments. That is also a red flag that something somewhere is not right. So there are very many ways, and the easiest one is where somebody who has been very outgoing all of a sudden just becomes an introvert and is not taking. Starts withdrawing from even the friends. If she used to call you, all of a sudden she is not calling, and she doesn't have a real reason why she is not calling.
Right, and hence the reason, of course, why we should keep checking on each other.
Yeah.
And being sisters, this is a sisterhood thing. And of course, the brothers should check on each other also.
Yeah.
Make sure that you do not ignore when someone seems to disappear. Maybe also they were very active on social media, and all of a sudden they are not being active, and you are 100% sure it has nothing to do with Wi-Fi or data. Or the fact that they lost their phone.
Yeah.
It's important to just check in and see how you can be able to assist. Dr. Beatrice, if I find out someone is being violated, and it's very clear to me this person is being violated, and whether they are aware of it or not, how can I help without interfering or without looking like I'm meddling in their business?
It's very important to be each other's keeper, and there are several ways that you can help. The first one is You can listen to the person, get to hear what the person has got to say, and encourage the person. You might realize that the situation is a little bit bigger than you can handle. In that case, then you need to recommend for professional help. A psychological counselor would come in very handy to be able to help the person out. And then the other thing is, as you said, we keep checking on each other. We become each other's keeper. When we notice something is not going the way it used to be and the way it should be, we should not just say, shauri yake. You need to be each other's keeper.
Right, and of course, we need to stop speaking about each other behind their backs. We are supposed to be helping each other here. So someone is in trouble, don't whisper and, spread rumors about their problems. See what you can do. Help genuinely. Because apparently domestic violence is something akin to disability. Anybody can get it anytime. Yeah, you can think that your life is going on very well, and then something can happen and you find yourself in that situation. And when that happens, Dr. Beatrice, what do I do? As the person who's, I have realized that my freedom is being infringed. How can I get out of that situation?
The way to get out of that situation, as I said, is to look for professional help. It's important to know that right now, counseling is the inner thing. We have a lot of issues in relationships, and the way to manage these issues is to get professional counseling help. I want to say that in Kenya, we have quite a number of counseling psychologists who are teamed up in different groups. I am the Vice Chair of Counselors and Psychologists Society of Kenya, and we have counselors all over the country in the 47 counties. So in case anybody is going through domestic violence, you don't need just to keep quiet. You need to go out there and get in touch with a counselor so that you can be helped out of what you are doing. And Grace, maybe it's good to say this. In domestic violence, there are issues that are very rampant right now. We are having the issue where children are being defiled by their own parents, by their own relatives, and this really becomes very tricky and very challenging, very traumatizing to the child and the spouse of this child, of this person who is abusing the child. And I'm not saying it's only girls who are being abused. We have cases where sons, young boys, have been sodomized by their own parents, their own fathers, their uncles, their elder brothers. And so the issue is not small. It's a big, big mountain in our society now. And that's why everybody needs to be aware of help wherever it is, so that in case that happens, you see that in your society, you don't need to keep quiet. Get in touch with the authorities that can refer you to a counselor.
Right, and Dr. Beatrice, you brought out a very huge elephant that we want to sweep under the carpet a lot. Mm-hmm. And we are seeing even the media used to cover these stories a lot. Now we are no longer telling these stories about children being defiled and all this. Of course, part of it is because we do not want to glorify children defilement, but it's happening. What do we do in cases like that, such kind of violence against children especially?
Grace, the issue is not that we don't want to magnify or glorify the defilement. I think the issue is people don't want to be associated with that. So if that has happened in the family members feel, how do we say this out? Our name is going to be spoiled out there. We are respected. We cannot have this kind of a story in our family. But I'm saying it is high time that these issues were brought out. Now, as a spouse, if your daughter, your son is being abused, sodomized, whatever is happening, help is at hand. Number one, you can go to the children's department where the children's officer will take action. These are cases that we have seen being rescued. Last week, we rescued one girl, and now she is in safe hand. The only challenge is that many times then bad blood flows in the family, because somebody feels, why have you reported me? Because at the end of the day, this person will end up in prison, and people don't want to go to prison. But they'd better go to prison, and we have our children safe and sound and happy.
Right, and I mean, those are deep issues, Dr. Beatrice, that you have alluded to and you've talked about. Topics, of course, for our next conversation, where we dig deeper into this matter of domestic violence, and we look at it from different aspects, and how we can manage it, how to identify, how to protect, how to avoid it, etc., etc. And, this conversation will go on. This is just the beginning. It's the first episode. We shall be moving on. It's a series, so we're going to have more episodes just on this conversation. But before we finish, I'd like to get Dr. Beatrice's final thoughts on this conversation, today's conversation rather, on domestic violence.
I wish to say that domestic violence is with us. It's not something that people are imagining. Is the true, is real, is there. And I would want to request that each person becomes a keeper of the other, because we need to watch out. These things will affect our society. These things will affect the tomorrow's generation, because if a child is abused, you can imagine what will happen next. And we need peace. We need to go back to the time when the child belonged to the society, and each neighbor was comfortable with their children in the neighbor's homestead. But these days it's tricky, it's not easy. So we need all of us to come on board and be able to be each other's keeper. When we see these things happening, please don't shut up and say it's not mine. It might not be mine today, but tomorrow it might be mine. I'm available. I'm based in Machakos. I have an office in Machakos. You can always get in touch with me wherever you are from in this country, and I will be able to refer you to a counselor wherever you are. As I said, I'm the Vice Chair of Counselors and Psychologists Society of Kenya, and we are broad-based in the whole country. Thank you.
Good news, there is help regardless of your situation. Do not sit in your house or sit in your corner and cry and get desperate and hopeless just because you're being violated or someone within your family is being violated. Speak out against domestic violence and help yourself and the people that are around you. We are going to continue with this series of conversation to talk about domestic violence. Next week, we shall be digging deeper to look at financial violence. How does it work? What is it? How can you get out of it? And are you really being financially violated, or are you just being lazy? My name is Grace Ndunge. It's been a pleasure hosting you. I'll see you again next week, same time, same channel. Until then, click the subscribe button and follow us so that you do not miss out on any of this conversation. Until then, God bless.